Nation, and welcome to your Steeler Nation podcast, part of the DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network, and sponsored by Total Sports Enterprises. I'm your host, G. Stryker, and I'd like to welcome the newest addition to the team, Jacob Tuioti Mariner, to the team. I mean, who is Jacob Tuioti Mariner? He is an edge player. Evidently, they were trying to make him an outside linebacker, but he seems a little big to be an outside linebacker. He's listed at 285 pounds. Probably would be more of a defensive end fit, kind of somebody to help out on Wormley or to help spell Cam Hayward or Loudermilk in those situations. But a good addition to the team nonetheless, in case there's any more injuries, in case we can't get to it back this season. Welcome to the team. We're happy to have you, and it's good that we can add more talent to the practice squad. We must have one of the most prolific, talented practice squads in the league, I swear. Soon, one of these days, we'll get Carl Joseph off of it. We'll see. Tip of the cap over there to the Irish Bears podcast over there. Kieran, thank you very much for having me on your podcast last week. Valiant effort to your boyos for coming into the breezy burg, and we'll be seeing you in 4 more short years over there in the Windy City. So cheers to you. Sláinte, my good friend. Cheers to you. We'll see you soon. I was on the Irish Bears podcast last week, ladies and gentlemen. Had a blast. Had an absolute blast with Kieran, podcasting directly from Ireland in Dublin. And we went over exclusively what we thought was going to happen with the game, what our strengths, what our weaknesses were. So if you got a chance, you want to check out some more Chicago Bears info, highly recommend the Irish Bears podcast over at Apple Podcasts. One thing I want to touch base on, hardcore, which is actually the title of the podcast this week, TJ Watt. Can he break Michael Strahan's record of 22.5 sacks this year? If he stays healthy, yes. Yes. I mean, you hear all the pundits throwing it out. Oh, Myles Garrett's the best. Oh, Myles Garrett's going to beat Strahan's record. He's such a good player. Myles Garrett. Yeah, he's a good player. When he's in control of his roid rage, and he's not braining opposing quarterbacks with their own helmet, yeah, he's a good player. Got to control that roid rage a little bit more. Test. HGH. Yeah, we have to check that out. But either way, he's still a half sack up on TJ Watt, leading the league with 12 sacks. TJ Watt has 11.5. Now, let's start looking into the numbers here a little bit. Garrett has 12 sacks in 9 games. TJ Watt has 11.5 sacks in 7 games. Technically 6.5 because he didn't play the whole second half of that Raiders game. But strictly for numbers purposes, we're going to say 7 games, Watt has 11.5 sacks. So what does this mean for a sack per game ratio? Both of them are over a sack per game, obviously, unquestionably. Garrett is at 1.33 sacks per game, just a shy under a sack and a half a game. Quite respectable sack numbers. Watt is over a sack and a half a game at 1.64 sacks per game. That's pretty elite numbers right there. So Watt's sack rate right now is very special. We have 9 more games to go. Garrett has 7 more games to go because he's got his bye week coming up. So if Watt keeps the pace of 1.64 sacks per game, number-wise, it would equate to about 14.8 sacks. So I'll just say 14.5 sacks. We won't round up. We'll just leave it at 14.5. Garrett would be on pace with his 1.33 sacks, another 7 games. He'll have 10.64 sacks, so 10.5 sacks, we'll say. Keeps it even for both of them. So, final season numbers projected straight across just purely on their sack per game rates. Garrett, Myles Garrett, congratulations. You did it. You tied Michael Strahan for the most sacks ever in a year at 22 and a half sacks. Congratulations. Hey, great job. Great job. Good job for not braining another quarterback this year. Awesome job. And you tied the sack record. But what's going on in Pittsburgh? What did Watt get? Watt, with that extra 14 and a half sacks, ended up with 26 sacks on the season. Slaughters the record. I mean, that goes a standard deviation above even just having that extra game to help him, which he didn't get the extra game because he's already been injured for a game. So he still did it in the same amount of games, technically a half game less than Michael Strahan. Higher sack rate, more sacks, better numbers, league record, crown him Defensive Player of the Year, 2-time should have been Defensive Player of the Year, now actual Defensive Player of the Year. If that's the way that rolls out with those numbers, I don't think there's any way you can deny TJ Watt is the best player on defense, may even push for possible MVP. Now, why would I say something like that? That's crazy, Stryker. MVP? What? MVP? See how it works like that? What? MVP? Even when you're questioning it, you're saying it. What? MVP? What? MVP? What? MVP? Yes, exactly. It's like a Abrams Zuckers film. What? MVP? Exactly. That's the way it rolls. Rolls right off the tongue. Because now that we have that progression, if he ends up getting that 14 and a half sacks, where does Watt finish in the all-time numbers for Pittsburgh Steelers sack numbers? Watt was outside of the top 10. I think he was like 12th when the season started. Currently, he's at 5. If he gets another additional 14, and this is all time. This isn't in first 5 years. This is all time for being a Pittsburgh Steeler. He's number 5 already. He just passed Cam Hayward, who's been on the team over twice as long, who is just able to be number 5 all time for 1 week. 1 week. He was number 5 all time in Pittsburgh Steelers all-time sack leaders for 1 week. Before TJ goes, 3 sacks, bam, took it. Passed his teammate. Now, TJ's at number 5 all time. Cameron Hayward's at number 6 all time. That's hilarious to me. Absolutely hilarious. I hope they at least have fun interior battles about that. It's like, how'd you enjoy being number 5 all time for that week? It was like back when Bettis and Curtis Martin were up there for number 4 all-time rushing. Bettis had it for 1 week. For 1 week, Jerome Bettis was the number 4 all-time leading rusher in the NFL until Curtis Martin passed him the following week. So it's kind of a similar situation. That was an all-around NFL type number, but this one's strictly for the team. Still similar, still fun, still something fun to talk about. But let's get back to those numbers that we were talking about. That extra 14 and a half sacks. That would put TJ Watt at 75.5 sacks for his first 5 years in the NFL. 75 and a half for his first 5 years. Where does that put him all time? It puts him a half sack behind Jason Gilden for number 4. It puts him 2 sacks behind Mean Joe Green for number 3. It puts him 2.5 sacks behind L.C. Greenwood for number 2. And 5 sacks behind the all-time leader in Pittsburgh Steelers sack history, James Harrison. 5 sacks behind his 80.5 sacks. And the final interesting number I'm going to throw out here is 81 sacks. What does 81 sacks mean, Steeler Nation? What does it mean to me? What does it mean to you? I'll tell you what it means to me. 81 sacks is the record in the NFL for the most sacks in a 5-year period. And that is Reggie White. Reggie White would only be 5.5 sacks above what TJ Watt has just would do if he holds those numbers. If he finds a way to get an extra 6 sacks, not only would he pass Reggie White for the all-time most sacks for anyone in their first 5 years, but he'd have more sacks in his first 5 years than any Pittsburgh Steeler ever in the history of the franchise since 1933. That's insane. These are insane numbers we're talking about here for TJ Watt. He could have one of those games where he rips off 5-6 sacks. He's consistently getting over a sack a game in most of these games. I think there's only one game where he got zeroed, but he still ended up like 2 pass defense and probably a forced fumble. The guy just always makes plays. It doesn't have to be sacks. He's making plays. Unlike Garrett, had that one game, had 5 sacks on, what was it, Fields' first start? Nearly half of his sacks on Justin Fields' first time ever stepping on an NFL field with his crappy tackle playing against him. Don't get me wrong. I think Garrett's an amazing pass rusher. Amazing pass rusher. He's not the playmaker that TJ Watt is. So, league, stop jumping on the Myles Garrett Defensive Player of the Year screaming session, rah-rah media train, because TJ Watt is going to start passing his numbers pretty significantly, especially once they hit the Cleveland Browns bye week. Because it seems to me TJ Watt is a consistent sacker, getting a couple sacks a game, whereas Myles Garrett, one big game, lots of sacks. A lot of games, maybe a sack here or there. We'll see how it goes. I guess it'll sack. Oh, we got to play somebody else, a new starting second string quarterback. 8 sacks. That's the only way he's going to get his numbers. That's the only way. I swear. But I digress. Put that in the rear view. The big thing is TJ Watt is special. If he hits these numbers, he's going to be a special player. And it's insane just to even think about he's even in the same stratosphere as Reggie White was in his first 5 years. You will be able to say them in the same breath. Reggie White played another 5 feet closer to the quarterback than TJ Watt. And he was a monster coming through the middle. You thought Darnold was something else. Reggie White was unblockable, period. You couldn't throw an extra person over there. 2, 3, 4 guys, didn't matter. Reggie White was getting there. He's a monster. Absolute monster on the defensive line when he was playing in the league. God bless you, Reggie White. Pastor Reggie White passed away. But he was a hell of a player there for the Eagles. And the Green Bay Packers. I believe he won a championship with the Packers too. I may be incorrect on that, but my memory, if it's correct, he might have won one with Favre, but hell of a player either way. Awesome to be able to say TJ Watt and those same type of names. And, the Watt household, they need that kind of stuff because that's what that's the way they measure themselves on elite stats. And the only elite stats that matter in the Watt household, Defensive Player of the Year. JJ versus TJ. JJ can get his first. He'll still be 2 behind JJ. Scoreboard. That's what sibling rivalry. Scoreboard. 2 more. 2 more. You might catch up to me. That's a heck of a household. Injury front, ladies and gentlemen, Steeler Nation. I am only going off of Thursday's numbers. This is pre-recorded. Still don't know what's going on in that football game with the Ravens and Dolphins. But what's going on right now, at least with the first 2 practices in the books, Chase Claypool's not going to play this week. He's just not. He's week to week. Didn't practice first 2 games. I don't see him playing this week at all. Roethlisberger missed his first 2 practices. That concerns me a bit. I don't know if they've been trying to give him some extra rest because it's a short week, but I also know that Roethlisberger can start on Sunday without practicing at all during the week because he's done it before. We'll have to see how it goes this week. Well, I honestly think he's going to practice in some capacity on Friday and be the starter for the Detroit game. Najee Harris popping up on the injury report for the first time all season with a foot. That concerns me a little bit. He was healthy on Wednesday, limited on Thursday. Have to see how he goes Friday to determine how he plays. Kendrick Green, the same way. Bam. Out of the blue, both of these guys. They were fine on Wednesday. Thursday, they show up limited. Najee with a foot. Kendrick Green with a hamstring. You don't want those soft tissue injuries on those big boys, especially somebody that's got elite twitch. Can get to that second, third level and big blocks downfield by Kendrick Green. That'll hamstring his game, pun intended. Cameron Hayward went from full practice to limited as well as Robert Spillane, both with ankles. Full practice Wednesday, limited Thursday. All of them questionable. We'll have to see how they do on Friday. If they practice, we're good to go. And it may be moot by the time you guys listen to that, which would be fantastic. Right now, that's just what I'm thinking. Isaiah Buggs and Eric Ebron, though, trending in the right direction. Isaiah Buggs being full practice both days for Wednesday and Thursday. Ebron limited as he's missed the past 2 games, yet had his first full practice in 4 weeks now. Today, Thursday. Looks good because we need him to play that big slot role that Juju Smith-Schuster has vacated since he's gotten injured. Honestly, I think it's a perfect fit for Eric Ebron's skill set, and he will be our big slot moving on for the rest of the year. Watch it. Matt Canada's a smart man. I think he will properly utilize that personnel in that spot. So Detroit side, not as, they're an 0-8 team. Sure, they're one of their running backs, who's one of their top running backs, is injured. He's limited or didn't practice. We'll have to see if he goes at all. But the interesting part is their kicker, Austin Siebert, with a right hip injury, was limited on Wednesday and Thursday. That concerns me if I'm a Detroit fan. You don't want a kicker with a right hip injury or right leg injury of any kind when he's kicking with that right foot. Why? It's going to affect his field goals. It's going to affect extra points. It's going to affect his comfort level when he's out there. And if we choose to ice him, he's going to be thinking about that injury a little bit. So what does that mean, Steeler Nation? I know a couple people are talking about Detroit game. Oh, no, it's a trap game. Oh, it's a trap game. Oh, Tomlin, fire him. He sucks at these games. He always loses to the worst team. Ah, it's a trap. Admiral Akbar, it's a trap. We get it. Let's talk about the game or the division leading Baltimore Ravens trap game. Every game's a trap game to them. They're barely winning all these games, but they needed to break the NFL record for the longest field goal ever by a kicker to beat the 0-for Detroit Lions. What does that mean? It means the other team in the NFL is trying to win, for gosh sakes. You are not your record. Your record is a result of the games that you play. So then the records do factor in on whether or not you're making it to the playoffs. You win more than you lose, you should make it to the playoffs. Those teams win more. But an 0-8 team doesn't mean they can't win a game. Any team can win. That team almost beat the Ravens. But they had to beat the all-time longest field goal in NFL history. In a dome, fortunately, for Justin Tucker. Otherwise, they wouldn't have won that game. There's no way he's hitting that outside. No way he's hitting that one outside. Especially since it's bouncing off the upright or the crossbar. But good for him. I mean, I think Justin Tucker's the best kicker ever in history. Funny enough, though, Boswell, his numbers are better than Tucker in the last 5 years. He's got the highest percentage of kicks made in the last 5 years. That's insane. That game last week was even more insane. 2 kicks over 50 yards. A game winner. And recovering a fumble. Give it up for Boz. Man, Wizard of Boz, man. Love that guy. Anytime we're on that side of the field, kick it. Give it to Boz. Who cares? All right, Steeler Nation, now it's time for questions from Steeler Nation. You want to go and ask questions from Steeler Nation? Join the football forum. It is free at SteelerNation.com. I put out the thread every week. You put up your questions, no matter how fun, weird, exciting, bad they are. I'm probably going to answer them. I love answering questions. And I'm going to give this one out to Brookville Beer Farm. I was there for game night on Thursday night. My buddies, going to give a shout out to them. There were adventures, games, and beer. I bought this great little dice set. Snaps together. You can roll your dice in it. It's a little velvety. Going to play that with my D&D squad on Saturday. Yes, I play D&D with my D&D squad. Yes, because I keep spreadsheets on the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's the way I am. I'm a little geeky sometimes, and that's the way it is. But either way, adventures, games, and beer. Check them out online. Do a search for them. They're fun as hell. They go and they do a bunch of board games over at different breweries, and it's a blast. I was just over at Brookville Beer Farm. So we had the Hop Envy tonight. I had a Dunkelweizen over there. I had a Hefeweizen. They're very German beer inspired. Great beers over there. Highly recommend them if you're in the Baltimore, DC area. Brookville Beer Farm. This one's called Hop Envy. It's an IPA. It's more of a juicier, for me, drinkable, not as hoppy IPA, and I'm really enjoying it tonight. So cheers, Steeler Nation. First question coming in from Mad Insomniac, who gave me a lot of questions, by the way. Do the Steelers need to adjust their coverage plan for holding late game leads? I know Tomlin loves his scheme, but it's getting exploited. Now, take a step back there, Mad, just for 1 second. The entire league is having problems keeping the league. Why? Because the rules are made to help out the offense. And when you go no huddle, you go hurry up, you limit what defenses can do. You limit personnel changes because the offense gets to dictate who the personnel is going to be with the personnel that they put out. So if they put out a 2 tight end set and end up running more pass plays, you're going to be sitting there with extra linemen that aren't going to be able to do anything because they're trying to throw the ball. And conversely, if they throw up a whole bunch of receivers and they start running the ball because we got to go dime, 2 linemen, now you start running the ball. It's just the way the league is. It's tough. Tomlin isn't the only guy that's exploited by it. The entire league's exploited by it. But Tomlin is still winning more than just about every other coach in history. Every other but 4 in history, his winning percentage. So, we can be upset at the minutia, I guess, for what Tomlin is doing, but on the big scheme of things, right now, the entire league is having trouble holding leads and especially holding big leads. Number 2, can Anthony Miller replace Claypool if he is down for a while? Yeah, I think he could probably replace him. I mean, he's not the tallest receiver on the practice squad. Anthony Miller's 5'11", 199. He's a good size. Probably he's the heaviest receiver on the practice squad, but he does have the most experience on the practice squad. He's generated some good numbers with Chicago. First year in the league, 423 yards. And how many touchdowns did he have? Boom, 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 boom. Why can I not see his touchdowns? Goodness. I think I'd be able to read. I've been drinking tonight, ladies and gentlemen. You think I'd be 7 touchdowns? That's a lot. I had my cursor on it. 423 yards, 7 touchdowns his first year. Upped his numbers, 52 receptions, 656. Touchdowns dropped to 2. Not a big deal. Third year, 49 receptions, 485 yards, 6 games. So decent number output. Played with Houston in 2 games. 1 game started. Only 5 receptions for 23 yards and a touchdown. Sounds like the guy can score. So, yeah, put him on the field. See what he can do. Let's see what his catch average is. Yards per reception. 12.8, 12.8, 9.9. Those were 3 best years. So, yeah, he can extend the field a little bit. So, yeah, let's get him on the field. Let's try him out. Otherwise, what are the other options? We got Tyler Vaughns, and who we don't know much about because he's an undrafted rookie free agent from USC, or Steven Sims, who used to play for Washington, in the league for 3 years now. This is the 3rd year. More of a slot guy. So if you're asking me, I'd probably promote Anthony Miller out of those 3 first. Steven Sims would probably come in if I needed help with Ray. We'll see moving forward. Number 3, the O-line just started gelling. If Moore continues to struggle protecting the pass, is it smart to reshuffle 2 positions? To tell you the truth, I think that's probably the reason why the Steelers have not put Banner in the game yet. Moore has a couple more games with problems. They're going to have to put Banner in. I don't know why Banner isn't in over Haig yet, obviously. I think Banner gives us more as the extra tackle. And also, they can reshuffle the line if they need to swip to either side. So it's not like Banner has to cover both. So, yeah, I don't know why Banner isn't out there, to tell you the truth. But Haig isn't going to take that spot. Moore beat out Haig pretty significantly in the preseason. So I think right now it's just like they don't want to move Moore because it is going to reshuffle 2 positions. So, yeah, that's probably it. Do you like the direction the offense is growing toward? I do. For the most part, yes. Especially since in October, Najee Harris won Offensive Rookie of the Month. That doesn't just speak to Najee Harris's ability to tote the rock. That speaks to the 5 guys in front of him blocking for him. 2 of them being rookies. 1 of them being a first-year starter. 1 of them being a first-year starter in our system, even though he's a 3-time Pro Bowler. So, yeah, it's a big deal. I love the way this offense is trending. We took a little step back. Chicago's defensive line owned us. They owned us, which I was not expecting at all. They're not that good against the run. I was talking to Kieran over there on the Irish Bears podcast. He was worried about our rush attack, worried about Najee Harris ripping off a big run or 2 against his Bears team. Didn't happen. Kudos to the Bears for strategizing and playing it properly. Being sound in the gaps, being sound against manning up, making sure everybody kept their assignment in the run game. Smart. They did a smart job, and they limited Najee Harris tremendously. So, yes, but I still do like the way that they are trending overall. Let's see how they do against Detroit this week. They can tick it back up. It's like the stock market. You can't go up every day. You're going to have some hills and some valleys. It's a valley last week. Let's see if we can get back to a hill. A couple good questions then, too. What was Marsh doing, in my opinion? Legitimately taunting? He forgot he wasn't with the Steelers and just started going to their sideline, or he was celebrating appropriately. I've got a different theory than all 3 of those, Mad. And my theory was he knows he played with our team. He was our 4th outside linebacker last year. He and Ola were the backups. I think it was kind of twofold. I think it's a little like, yeah, hey guys, look at me. I got our quarterback. You shouldn't have got rid of me, but I didn't think it was more like that. I think it's more like, hey guys, I know you guys. You guys know me. I made a big play. Wish I was still with you guys, but I'm over here and I'm still making plays. Like, to me, that's what it felt like. It didn't feel intentional. It didn't feel taunty to me. It felt a little boisterous, but it's boisterous in the fact that he knows our team. He knows Ben. He's gone up against those linemen before. Well, not in a starting situation, but in training camp. Yeah, he's a second teamer. Yeah, he went up against most of those guys. Well, no, not Green and not more. Dotson, maybe. Never mind. He didn't know any of those guys. But either way, He made a play against his former team. He should be excited about it, honestly. I wouldn't have flagged it personally, but strictly from a referee unbiased situation, an unbiased referee would not know at all that Cassius Marsh played for the Steelers in the previous year. Wouldn't know it at all. Just saw a player turn toward the sideline, might have said something toward the sideline. Whether or not it was sarcastic, in jest, don't know. I don't know. But I can see how a referee being unbiased, not knowing a player turning toward another sideline, yelling at that sideline is not taunting. If they do it, you're told to, and that's the point of emphasis this season. Tomlin's on the competition committee. He says this is being very well flagged this year. We are supposed to be representing the league. We are role models for people watching at home. We got to set an example, he did not say role models. We've got to set an example for the people watching at home. And I see that mindset. I do see that mindset. I personally think they are all grown men, millionaires, making tons of money. They can take it mentally if somebody yells at them or points at them. I don't think it's going to destroy them because they're all alpha males. But I can see how that would set a tone for society. My kid's going to do that to your kid. You don't need that kind of stuff on the small scale. So, yeah, that's why it is flagged. It was correctly flagged by an unbiased referee, seeing somebody shouting and pointing and walking toward the opposing team's line after a big play and a sack. It sucks. If that happened to Watt, I'd be as equally as upset as the Bears are at happening to Marsh. Really, I would. Really, I would. But it's the way it is. Last question then from Mad Insomniac. Coach Tomlin just passed Coach Cowher in regular season wins. Does he now rank ahead of Cowher among the big three? For me, personally, I thought he ranked above Cowher after his first Super Bowl in 2 years. I've already had Tomlin above Cowher. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Bill Cowher. Absolutely love Bill Cowher. 5 AFC championship games at home. Won one of them to get to that Dallas Super Bowl that we lost. The other AFC championship game was on the road. Won that one. Took the team all the way to the win. And that run is epic. Absolutely epic. And I just read Cowher's book. Pick it up. Read it. It's worth it. Heart and Steel by Bill Cowher. And that really gives you the insights of what it is to be a head coach and how difficult it is to be a head coach and how each and every year is different as a head coach. All of them have different challenges. All of them have different personnel. So saying things like Tomlin won with Cowher's players is disingenuous at best. That's not something that Bill Cowher would ever say. Like, Bill Cowher didn't win with Knowles players. Why isn't anybody? That's how he made his first Super Bowl 3 years after having Knowles players. Nobody says that. Why do they say that about Tomlin? I don't know. I don't know. Look inside yourselves. Ask yourselves that question. You'll figure it out. But for me, yeah, I love Tomlin. I mean, there's saying he's not perfect, just like Cowher wasn't perfect. And Cowher would tell you he's not perfect. Tomlin's not perfect either, but they're trying to get better each and every year. And I do love the way he manages his team, media. He's no nonsense and he's honest, you know? So, what's the hate about that? Next question. Ray had ball control issues in college. Now it's showing up here. Is he bound to he's bound to get targeted more? Is it time to make a switch on returns? Probably not. Because who is your backup? Anthony Miller, who had let's check out his returning stats. Because he does have some kickoff and kick returning stats. He has 6, 7, 8 kick returns in his NFL history in 3 years. He's got 5 punt returns, all coming within 1 year in 2020. I don't think that's a long enough resume to replace him yet. I know Miller, we just talked about Miller. I know also Sims has some returning capability as well. But I don't think any of them are as good as Ray Ray. I don't know why Ray Ray isn't as electric as he has been. When he first started being a returner, he was absolutely electric, and I loved him as a returner. Ever since he took that big hit against the Ravens, he's been a different returner. So, I don't know. Just don't put the ball on the ground. That's all I can say. And don't run it out of the end zone if you're got in the end zone. That's all you need to do. How about Boswell? Week after being scrambled, he pretty much wins the game for us. 250-yarders at Hines, a fumble recovery, and the game-winning kick. I mentioned that earlier. Love it. Love me some Boz. And that's always awesome to see. Wig over at SteelerNation.com. We all have opinions in the no huddle or muddle huddle offense and its efficacy. Can you look at some film and compare the defenses, personnel, and situations that allowed the last drive to be so efficient when the team had basically just gotten along offensively for most of the second half? Now, I didn't do a lot of film study yet this week, Wig, but I will go off of what Ben Roethlisberger said in his press conference. And Ben stated, I know I'm paraphrasing, but Ben stated defenses are essentially simplified when you're out there running a no huddle. And that's league-wide. Offense dictates the personnel. Defense can't do exotic changes, exotic personnel shifts, things like that when you're running muddle huddle, when you're running no huddle, because that means no changes are happening the entire time. Pretty much got to go pretty basic. Ben Roethlisberger's been in the league now, what? Geez, seems like 18 years by now. He's seen the defenses enough to know if he's going no huddle, they're not going to throw something out there he hasn't seen before. That's why he's so good at no huddle. Worked at the right time at the end of the game, got down the field, got in field goal range. Bam! Game winner, number 50 for Ben Roethlisberger. Chalk it. Rack him. Win. Stacking wins, number 4. Awesome. Awesome. Wig also asks, was it a schematic failure of the Bears given the inability to substitute, or was the offense just sharper and the no huddle? Need somebody who really understands football. Well, I guess I thought that was 2 questions. I'm sorry. I didn't know it was 2 paragraphs. But yes, I essentially just said that the offense does have the advantage. The Bears kind of have to figure out on the fly as the offense is dictating pace. The offense is dictating personnel. That's why the entire league, no lead is safe. That's why the Kansas City Chiefs came back 3 times from double-digit deficits late in games throughout the entire playoffs to win a Super Bowl. Did it in the Super Bowl, too. San Francisco was celebrating on the sideline when they were up by, what, it was 13 or 14. Game's over. Nope. Here comes the no huddle. Here comes the hurry up. You got a talented quarterback like Mahomes doing it. It's tough to stop. It's tough to stop. Lidos from Venezuela asks us, does Mullet ride the pine this weekend? He sure got exposed in the nickel, and maybe moving Sutton to the slot isn't a bad idea. Hoping Pierre holds on. Now, here's something I haven't heard, though, Lidos. Haven't heard this much this season. Sutton got burned on that touchdown. Haven't heard that. I think Sutton's doing a damn fine job on the outside right now. I also think that Mullet has a role in this defense. Mullet's role is to be the slot cornerback in running situations. He plays close to the line of scrimmage. He's able to get into the backfield, make some TFLs, rush that quarterback, stop those wide receiver screens. That's what Mullet does best. Now, what happens if they start passing out of that set? Mullet gets exposed. Why? Because Trey Norwood is the better slot player in that situation. He is the pass defending slot player. Does a really good job, both against tight ends, against running backs, against slot receivers. And to keep that in mind, this is a good matchup, too, to talk about for the Detroit game coming up, because their top 2 receivers on this team, on this Detroit Lions team, number 1 is their tight end. Number 2 is their running back. Wide receivers are an afterthought in this Detroit Lions offense with Jared Goff. Jared Goff. Jared Goff. I'm just coming up with these on the fly. It's my new nickname for Jared Goff. Jared Goff. The choking Jared Goff. Sorry, Jared. I know you're an NFL caliber quarterback in name only, but you're an NFL caliber quarterback now playing in Detroit. Enjoy it. Enjoy the bed you have made. Well, that's all the time we have now on Steeler Nation on that note. Go over and see our title sponsor, Total Sports Enterprises, over at tseshop.com. Get yourself some great gifts. Awesome signed merchandise over there at tseshop.com. Make sure you follow them on Twitter because they are giving away things during the game, during each quarter. And after the game, they're always giving away signed merchandise. They've got so much stuff, they're giving it away. Follow them on Twitter. Total Sports Enterprises. They're a must follow. Follow us on Colorcast, Apple phone, iPhone, all you iPhone people saying the iPhones are way better than these Androids. Show me. Show me on the Colorcast. Monday nights, 7 o'clock. Join our Colorcast. We're always giving away something for free. We'll be giving away something this week. Haven't decided what it is yet, but we will be giving away something signed for free this week. Join us on the Colorcast, 7 o'clock Mondays. Follow me at SN Stryker with a Y on there. Vidcast is going to be back at 1 p.m. on Tuesday after the press conference at noon. And we always go over all the stuff that Tomlin talks about on the press conference live. YouTube.com/Steeler Nation. Check out the great Pittsburgh sport content at DKPittsburghSports.com. Read our great Pittsburgh Steeler focused articles at SteelerNation.com. Tweet us at Steeler Nation. Instagram us at SteelerNation.com. Follow the podcast on Twitter at _SN Podcast or on Instagram at Steeler Nation Podcast. Or you can follow me on everything: Twitter, Instagram, Colorcast at SN Stryker, Stryker spelled with a Y. Thank you for joining us on the SteelerNation.com podcast, sponsored by Total Sports Enterprises, part of the great DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. I'm your host, G. Stryker, rooting along with you as always. Go Steelers!